British Boardman Bloodhound Detective Story Magazine. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and we're going to take a look at a interesting series of crime magazines and digests from the UK, the Boardman Bloodhound Detective Story Magazine. There were 13 issues. They were published from May 1961 to 1962, and they reprinted the American Manhunt magazine stories with the American Manhunt cover art. But the interesting thing about them is that all the stories have artwork by Dennis McLaughlin, who was a terrific cover artist for Boardman books. Boardman published hardcover books, paperback books, comic books, magazines, and previously in this video series we looked at the Boardman Bloodhound paperback series of 8 books, and now we're going to look at the Boardman Bloodhound magazine, Detective Story magazine, which is 13 issues from 1961 to 1962. And without further ado, I'm going to give you just a look at the spines of the books, of the magazines. This is what they look like. This is how they look on the shelf. Very nice uniform looks. The back covers often show, they have the same Bloodhound logo as, and you'll see the Bloodhound logo down here also. Same Bloodhound logo as on the Bloodhound books. Some of the later books have, sometimes they show the authors on, they all show the authors who are in each issue, and sometimes they show a little bit about the story in the later issues. Dennis McLaughlin was also the art director of the series, and he gets credit as art director for only on the last book in the series, number 13. So here we're going to take a look at the Boardman Bloodhound number 1 from May 1961. It's got a again these all reprint the U.S. Manhunt cover art and a lot of the stories. Mickey's has a Mickey Spillane story, Everyone's Watching Me, Evan Hunter, John Ross MacDonald, William Irish, and Craig Rice. See, these are all Manhunt authors, all Manhunt. This is from May 1961, number 1. But the interesting thing is that they have Dennis McLaughlin art on the pages for each story begins. So you'll see there's a little one here for Evan Hunter story, Die Hard. If I can find them. There's a bunch of them in there. There's one for the Craig Rice story. He did illustrations throughout the magazine, and McLaughlin was a terrific artist, and that's his artwork made these special. That's number 1. Number 2 is from June 61, and Richard Prather, William McGivern, and many other, Erskine Caldwell, many other, and Mickey Spillane continues his story. Again, McLaughlin does a nice piece of art for the Richard Prather story that leads off the issue. More McLaughlin art. More McLaughlin art. Another Jonathan Craig story. More McLaughlin art. McLaughlin had a terrific style, a cartoony art style that was really great, and it worked terrific on these crime digests. Number 3 has James M. Cain, Evan Hunter, William McIvan, Ross McDonald. Continues Mickey Spillane's serial, Everyone's Watching Me. This is number 3 from July 1961. Contents from all of U.S. Manhunt. And here's the McLaughlin art. A nice piece of work by Dennis McLaughlin. He signed it with his initials, DML. McLaughlin's extremely popular artist, and he's very, very collected. And his work is on the Boardman Bloodhound paperbacks and hardcovers is just amazing. But on these digests, this short series of 13 detective story magazines, he's really really does some nice work. And these are really just cool magazines to collect. It's a short series, 13, that came out monthly. This is number 4 from August 61. Here's the cover. It's again the Manhunt cover. Leslie Charteris, Jonathan Craig, John Evans, who was Howard Brown, Hunt Collins, who was also Evan Hunter, Elazar Lipsky, and Henry Cain, and the McLaughlin art for the Henry Cain story leads off the issue. These are a little hard to find, these magazines. Some of them harder than others. Number 8 seems to be one of the toughest ones to find. Number 5 has a David Goodis story, The Blue Sweetheart, along with all the other usual authors. Cover. And there's a Goodis story, and leads off with a Craig Rice story with McLaughlin art. The Goodis story. There's a Richard Deming story with McLaughlin art. Again, the DML. He did all the artwork for these inside, and just beautiful, beautiful work. Frank Cain, Payoff. Robert Turner, Finding Everybody Except David Goodis, which is usually the way it works out. Okay, there's Floyd Mahana, nice full-page illustration. Where is David Goodis?
Look in the table of contents.
That's a good idea. I'm going to look in the table of contents. It's page 36, and that just tells you, okay. And that's so simple. It tells you, there you go, The Blue Sweetheart, David Goodis. So that's number 5. Number 6 continues with Mickey Spillane stories, and Bruno Fisher, Evan Hunter, Richard Prather, Arnold Marmer, who was a pulp writer who lived in Queens, who I actually knew, and again Richard Marsden, who was also Evan Hunter. And this is number 6 from October 61. Nice cover. And the opening story is the Mickey Spillane story, illustrated by McLaughlin. McLaughlin illustrations are really terrific. Bloodhound number 7, November 61. Henry Cain, David Goodis, Fletcher Flora, Robert Turner, Craig Rice. Here's the cover. Here's the Craig Rice opening story, illustrated by McLaughlin. Nice full page. Beautiful. I mean, these black and white interior illustrations by McLaughlin are just beautiful in and of themselves. especially the full-page ones. They're just really great, and something that really makes these magazines special. Number 8, December 61. This is a tough one. Mine isn't in that great condition. It has a Mickey Spillane story, The Pickpocket, which I actually reprinted in my magazine Hardboiled about 10 years ago. And Craig Rice story opens up the issue. McLaughlin illustration. And let's see if I can find The Pickpocket. There's Evan Hunter. There's Harold Q. Miser. The Wench is Dead. Pickpocket is a short little story. Frank Kane, Evidence. Fletcher Flora. Richard Prather. And let me see if I can find where The Pickpocket, where that appeared. Page 28. Just to show you. See, it's such a short story. McLaughlin didn't do much for it. He just did a little text design. That's number 8. That's probably the toughest one to find in the series. Some of these show up. This is number 9 from January 62. This has James M. Cain, Richard Ellington, Evan Hunter, Frederick Brown, Hunt Collins, who was Evan Hunter, Henry Cain, a Pete Chambers story. And this is one that shows up occasionally. And James M. Cain story. It's the contents page. The 2 O'Clock Blonde, James M. Cain. Number 10 in the series has Richard Prather, Harold Q. Mazer, Frank Kane, Jack Webb, Evan Hunter, Hunt Collins, James T. Farrell cover story, and Evan Hunter opens up the magazine with the story Still Life, illustrated by McLaughlin. Issue number 11 has David Goodis, Black Pudding, Henry Cain, Harold Q. Mazer, Craig Rice, Charles Beckman Jr., and others. Number 11 is from March 1962. That's the cover of that. Again, they all have the Bloodhound logo on the front. You have the Bloodhound logo in the back, and then telling you different stories by different writers that are inside each issues. The Richard Deming story opens up the issue. Fletcher Flora story. Craig Rice story. Charles Beckman Jr., You Know What I Did. The David Goodis story, Black Pudding. Nice full-page illustration by McLaughlin to start that story. Very nice. Number 12, Ross McDonald, Frank Kane, Evan Hunter, Jack Ritchie, Richard Marsden, who was Evan Hunter. Again, very nice cover for the April 1962 issue. Find a Victim, John Ross McDonald story. And it opens up with story by John M. Seitzman, and other stories. Frank Kane, McLaughlin art is spectacular. Jack Ritchie, and Richard Marsden. And the last issue, the anniversary issue that they call, it was issue number 13 from May '62. Richard Prather, Henry Kane, John Ross MacDonald, Harold Q. Mazer, Frank Kane, Hunt Collins, who was Evan Hunter, and that's right here. This is its 13th issue, and this is the issue final, the anniversary issue. This is the issue where they credit Dennis McLaughlin as the art editor. Only time his name is really shown on the magazine. Opens up. First story is by John Ross MacDonald and Henry Kane. The wrong touch. And another Richard Marsden story, which is Evan Hunter. So there you have the complete set of all 13 issues of the Bloodhound, Boardman Bloodhound Detective Story magazine, digest size crime fiction magazine. It was the British version of American Manhunt magazine, but there was a British Manhunt also, which was published as Manhunt in the 50s. There were a few issues of that, and Bloodhound then reprinted all of those stories from Manhunt in the Bloodhound Detective Story magazine series. So it's a really cool series because just a cover art. It's a short series, 13 digests, and terrific stories by terrific crime writers. All the best Manhunt writers were writing in the Bloodhound books magazine, and the Dennis McLaughlin art inside is just beautiful. It's terrific, and he would go on to do, or had been doing, many covers for their paperbacks, for their hardcovers, for the Boardman pocket readers, which is another series we may look at later on, and others, a lot of other books that are really cool. So I just hope you like this look at this Bloodhound Detective Digest series, and thanks for looking, and give us a thumbs up and a like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.